Well, hello. It's time for the fifth assembly of our lockdown period. I hope you're all very well. Obviously, all the staff at Malmesbury School still send you their best wishes. Staff are working very hard at the moment on grading for Year 11s and Year 13s and setting new work, so very much appreciate all the work they're doing. I just thought this week look back on the week that's passed and a couple of significant events that seem significant to me. It was St George's Day last week. I always remember St George's Day as being an important day when I was a child in the Cubs and Scouts. St George's Day parades were always a big thing. St George, obviously the patron saint of England. We'll talk a little bit more about St George in a minute. And the other thing that was significant last week was I saw the first swallow of the year. Always a big moment when you see the swallows that have arrived from their migration. And again, we'll talk about those a little bit more in a minute. And we'll finish off with a poem, as often we do. So St George's Day, 23rd of April, big day. Also Shakespeare's birthday, of course. St George, the patron saint of England. So what do we know about St George? Well, he was a Roman soldier. He was born in what's now Turkey. He served in the Roman army, was eventually martyred by the Emperor Diocletian for refusing to renounce his Christian faith, and he's buried in Israel. And although we think of St George as perhaps the most English of all characters, and obviously famously in fighting a dragon to rescue a princess, a damsel in distress, and we see that George and the Dragon images in art or literature over a very long time. Obviously, significantly, George was not English, never visited England. He served as an immigrant in the Roman army, possibly one of the most multiracial armies of all time, with soldiers serving from all over what was then the Roman Empire, all of Europe and North Africa and the Far East or the Near East. And George was a very successful soldier in the Roman army. So it's interesting just to think how that St George became such an important patron and an image for all things English, the George's cross being the flag of England. Of course, he's not just the patron saint of England, he's a number of patron saint of a number of other countries, Russia, Bulgaria, Ethiopia, Malta, Georgia, Greece, Portugal, chosen as a patron to represent martyrdom and heroism and strength and military success in the past as well by lots of different countries and parts of countries. The Catalans revered George as well, part of Spain. So he's an interesting choice for us as English people as a patron saint. But anyway, there was his Saint's Day last week. So swallows, as I say, I saw the first swallow. There's a couple of patches in the countryside. I was out for one of our regular lockdown walks. We've talked about those before. And always lovely to see the first swallows arrive. Really typical, hugely important part of an English summer. Swallows, followed a bit later by the swifts and the house martins that come in as well, and all sorts of other migratory birds as well. I saw some blackcaps, and I know the whitethroats are arriving as well, other birds that arrive. And again, a really important part of what we think of as being English, but of course not from England. The swallows that migrate and nest in England over the summer start their journeys in South Africa. They fly thousands of miles all the way up through Africa, across the Sahara, through North Africa, and then arrive in April and May in this country to nest, often returning to the same nest sites as they have done before, but travelling a very long way from Africa through all kinds of really challenging environments to get here. So although we think of them as a sign of the English summer, again, they're not really what you might think of as a traditional English bird. And I think one of the great things about Englishness and perhaps the wider sense of Britishness is to think of all of those connections that we have to the rest of the world, how much we are related to and influenced by all peoples from all over the rest of the world. And we are, as Winston Churchill once described us, a mongrel race, a mixture of people who've come to make their homes in the British Isles over many thousands of years. And there's an absolutely wonderful poem that summarises, it's about the British rather than specifically the English, but it works just as well, by one of our great poets, Benjamin Zephaniah. And I'll read it to you. I have to say, you have to look this up on YouTube and hear Benjamin Zephaniah himself reading it, because he has the most wonderful voice, and it is worth listening to, and he does it infinitely better than I do. But it's a wonderful poem. So here it is. The British serves 60 million. Take some Picts, Celts and Silures and let them settle. Then overrun them with Roman conquerors. Remove the Romans after approximately 400 years. Add lots of Norman French to some Angles, Saxons, Jutes and Vikings, and then stir vigorously. Mix some hot Chileans, cool Jamaicans, Dominicans, Trinidadians, Barjaeans, with some Ethiopians, Chinese, Vietnamese and Sudanese. Then take a blend of Somalians, Sri Lankans, Nigerians and Pakistanis, combine with some Guyanese and turn up the heat. Sprinkle some fresh Indians, Malaysians, Bosnians, Iraqis, Bangladeshis, together with some Afghans, Spanish, Turkish, Kurdish, Japanese and Palestinians. Then add to the melting pot. Leave the ingredients to simmer. As they mix and blend, allow their languages to flourish, binding them together with English. Allow time to be cool. Add some unity, understanding, respect for the future. Serve with justice and enjoy. Note, all the ingredients are equally important. Treating one ingredient better than another will leave a bitter, unpleasant taste. Warning, an unequal spread of justice will damage the people and cause pain. Give justice and equality to all. One of the other things that strikes me when we think about migration to England, to Britain, and the importance of migration and our international connections is the number of people obviously working as carers and in our National Health Service who are either recent immigrants or come from immigrant families who contribute so much to our natural life. And think of St George as a Turkish soldier serving in a Roman army. Our British Army has relied for hundreds of years on immigrants coming to serve in the British Army, whether they're Gurkhas from Nepal or Fijians or Africans who have been in Indians, Bangladeshis have been an essential part of our armed forces over many years. So I think it's a good time, St George's Day, to reflect on the rich, beautiful, wonderful melting pot that is England and Britain, and how important migration has been to shaping our national character, whether it's our patron saint or the swallows that arrive in summer. So I hope, as I said at the beginning, I hope you're all well, keeping well. We're thinking of you. Everyone at Malmesbury School sends you their very best wishes, and I'll speak again soon.